Good evening, friends. Welcome to our continuous recitations of Aurobindo's Savitri. We are in Canto 3, the Yoga of the Soul's Release, in Book 1, the Book of Beginnings. We are through verses 445 through 455. As a child who learns to walk and walk not long, replace the titan will forever to climb, on the heart's altar dim the sacred fire. An old pull of subconscious chords renews, it draws the unwilling spirit from the heights, or a dull gravitation drags us down to the blind-driven inertia of our base. This too the supreme diplomat can use. He makes of all a means for greater rise. Fall into ignorant nature's gusty field, into the half-ordered chaos of mortal life. The formless power, the self of eternal light, follow in the shadow of the Spirit's descent. The twin duality, forever one, chooses its home amid the tumults of the sense. He comes unseen into our darker parts, and, curtained by the darkness, does his work. A subtle and all-knowing guest and guide, till they too feel the need and will to change. All here must learn to obey a higher law. Our body selves must hold the immortal's flame, else would the spirit reach alone its source, leaving a half-saved world to its dubious fate. Nature would ever labor unredeemed, earth would ever spin unhelped in space, and these immense creations' purpose fail, till at last the frustrate universe sank undone. Even his godlike strength to rise must fall. His greater consciousness withdrew behind, dim and eclipsed, his human outside strove to feel again the old sublimities. Bring the high saving touch, the ethereal flame. Call back to its dire need the divine force. Always the power, poured back like sudden rain, or slowly in his breast a presence grew. It clambered back to some remembered height, or soared above the peak from which it fell. Each time he rose, there was a larger poise, a dwelling on a higher spirit plane. The light remained in him a longer space. In this oscillation between earth and heaven, in this ineffable communion's climb, there grew in him, as grows a waxing moon, the glory of the integer of his soul, a union of the real with unique, a gaze of the alone from every face, the presence of the eternal in the hearts, widening the mortal mind's half-look on things, bridging the gap between man's force and fate. Made whole the fragment being, we are here. At last was won a firm spiritual poise, a constant lodging in the eternal's realm, a safety in the silence and the ray, a settlement in the immutable. His heights of being lived in the still self, his mind could rest on a supernal ground and look down on the magic and the play where the godchild lies on the lap of night and dawn, and the everlasting puts on time's disguise. Each time he rose there was a larger poise, a dwelling on a higher spirit plane. The light remained in him a longer space, in this oscillation between earth and heaven, in this ineffable communion's climb. There grew in him as grows a waxing moon, the glory of the integer of his soul, a union of the real with the unique, a gaze of the alone. From every face, the presence of the eternal in the hours. Widening the mortal mind's half look on things, bridging the gap between man's frozen fate, made whole the fragment being we are here. These verses describe what is commonly known to all seekers of truth as the night, the long night of the soul, where the seeker leaves the spiritual path and goes back to live a kind of a ordinary or even a subordinary life. But the same thing occurs also even without leaving the path, the bright periods with the dry periods. And it is described here how if we persevere farther down, we reach at last was one of firm spiritual poise. That is, after we are made whole, the fragment being we are here, all the different parts are connected, and a constant lodging in the eternal realm, a safety in the silence and the ray, a settlement in the immutable, his heights of being lived in the still self. Thank you again for joining this session of meditation.